In the pages of history, there were cities that once reached the pinnacle of prosperity and abundance. But today, their existence lies buried beneath a salty, lifeless sea. Such a torment, such a divine wrath that utterly annihilated 3 vast settlements. But amidst that destruction, one figure remains, one that has not eroded with the passage of time, a pillar that was once a woman. Who was this woman? And what was her crime, for which she was sentenced to stand as a warning to humanity until the day of judgment? Today, we will learn the complete story of the rise and terrifying fall of the people of Prophet Lut, AS. And we will uncover the mystery. Why was Lut's wife not saved even in that final moment of destruction? Our story begins almost 4,000 years ago, at a time when the world was just recovering from the shock of the great flood of Prophet Lut, AS. Human civilization was planting new roots in the fertile lands of Mesopotamia. It was at this time that a great personality emerged on the stage of history, whom we know as the friend of Allah, Prophet Ibrahim, AS. Ibrahim, AS, was the torchbearer of Tawheed, or monotheism. He left his homeland of Ur at the command of the one Allah, heading toward an unknown future. On this long journey, he had only 2 companions, his wife, Hazrat Sarah, AS, and his nephew, whose name was Lut. Prophet Lut, AS, was deeply cherished by his uncle. He grew up on the ideals of Ibrahim, AS, witnessing his wisdom and knowledge up close. For years, they lived together in the land of Canaan, living a nomadic life, raising livestock, and worshipping the one Allah. But over time, their herds of livestock grew so large that the pastures of Canaan were no longer enough. Then the 2 great men honorably decided to separate so that no conflict would arise between their followers. Prophet Ibrahim, AS, remained in the highlands of Hebron, and Prophet Lut, AS, journeyed with his followers toward a vast, lush green valley to the east. This valley was situated on the banks of the Jordan River and was so fertile that from a distance it looked like the Garden of Paradise. It was in this valley that 5 cities were located, known in history as the cities of the plain. The largest, wealthiest, and most influential of these 5 cities was Sodom, and its companion cities were Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, and Zoar. When Prophet Lut, AS, first set foot in Sodom, he was dazzled by its splendor. The city was a major center of commerce. Merchants came here from far and wide. The soil of the city was fertile as gold. A little effort yielded abundant crops. The people of the city were wealthy. Their lives were luxurious. From the outside, Sodom seemed like a perfect paradise. But Prophet Lut, AS, did not know that behind the beautiful face of this city lay a deep, dark wound. A sin that the world had never seen before. The people of Sodom had become blind with the arrogance of their wealth. They became so selfish and self-centered that qualities like humanity, kindness, and empathy had completely vanished from them. According to Islamic narrations and other historical sources, the first corruption that began among them was extreme inhospitality and banditry. Sodom was on an important trade route. When any weary traveler or merchant came to this city to rest, the people, instead of helping, would rob him of everything. They committed robbery openly, oppressed the weak, and considered this act a form of entertainment or right. The city's laws were also bizarre. If an outsider, after being tortured by them, sought justice, the judge would instead punish the victim. They loved their wealth so much that they were unwilling to give even a piece of bread to any poor or needy person. It is even said that they cut down the fruit trees around their city so that no hungry traveler could eat even a single fruit for free. This boundless greed, ingratitude, and cruelty was the first step toward their destruction. They had created a society where showing kindness was seen as weakness, and cruelty was considered strength. And in this filthy environment, Satan opened the door to a new sin before them, one that was completely against nature, a heinous crime that not only human history, but no creature in the entire creation had ever imagined before. The men of this city, going against their natural instincts, began to be attracted to other men. They chose men instead of women to fulfill their carnal desires. They committed this disgusting act openly in public and shamelessly. This perversion had become so normal in their society that no one dared to speak against it. They abandoned their wives and families. They mocked the sacred bond of marriage. Their city turned into a center of unbridled perversion. This is the nation known to history as the people of Lut. And it was in this sea of sin that Prophet Lut, AS, began to live with his family. He was the only person in this city whose soul had not been tainted by this filth. Very soon, a great responsibility was about to be placed upon him by Allah, an almost impossible mission to bring this dying nation back to the path of truth. Allah Ta'ala appointed Prophet Lut, AS, as a prophet for this nation. He commanded him to warn his people about this heinous sin and its terrible consequences. Lut, AS, knew how difficult this task was. He was an outsider. He had no powerful tribe or lineage to support him in this city, but he trusted in the command of Allah. He stood in the markets of Sodom, in their public assemblies, and in every corner. He called out to his people, saying, "O my people, fear Allah and obey me. I'm a trustworthy messenger to you. Are you committing that indecent act which no one in the world has ever committed before you? You leave women and fulfill your desires with men. Indeed, you are a transgressing people." He tried to make them understand. He reminded them of Allah's blessings, that fertile land, that wealth, that healthy life. He told them, Allah has created your wives for you, who are your pure companions. Why have you abandoned this sacred relationship and descended onto this vile path? Repent, return to Allah. Otherwise, a great torment will descend upon you. But the people of that nation burst into laughter upon hearing his words. They mocked him. They said, "O Lut, if you do not stop this preaching, you will be expelled from this city." They didn't stop there. They threatened him, saying, "Expel Lut's family and followers from our city, for they are people who pretend to be pure." Their arrogance grew so much that they challenged Allah directly. They said, "O Lut, if you are truthful, then bring upon us that torment you threaten us with. We are ready." Year after year, Prophet Lut, AS, continued trying to make his people understand. But apart from a handful of people, no one believed in him. And even within his own house there was an enemy. He did not know that his own wife, whom he trusted, was a spy for this disbelieving and sinful nation. She was a hypocrite who was known publicly as the Prophet's wife. But secretly she plotted against her husband's mission. When the cup of the people of Lut's sins was full, when their transgression reached its absolute peak, the decision of Allah was finalized. To implement that decision, special guests descended from the heavens to the earth, such guests whose arrival brought both relief and an unprecedented test for Prophet Lut, AS. But these special guests, these angels of Allah, did not first descend on Sodom. They had another important stop on their journey from the heavens. They first went to the uncle of Prophet Lut, AS, the father of monotheism, Prophet Ibrahim, AS. They appeared before Ibrahim, AS, in the guise of handsome young men. Prophet Ibrahim, AS, who was renowned for his hospitality, immediately slaughtered a fattened calf and brought it roasted for his guests. But he was astonished to see that these young men did not even extend their hands toward the food. A sense of fear arose in the Prophet's heart. Then those guests revealed their true identities. They said, "O Ibrahim, do not be afraid. We are angels sent by Allah." They gave Prophet Ibrahim, AS, the good news of the birth of Prophet Ishaq, AS, in his old age, and after him, Prophet Yaqub, AS. But their second and main purpose was different. They announced, "We have been sent to the people of Lut. We have come to destroy that sinful settlement." Hearing this, the gentle heart of Prophet Ibrahim a.s. trembled. He became worried for his nephew Lut. He began to plead with the angels, hoping the torment could be averted. He said, "But Lot is in that city." The angels replied, "We know who is there. We will surely save him and his family." But Ibrahim a.s. pleaded again, "If there are even 50 believers in that city, will you still destroy it?" The angel said no. He kept reducing the number. "What if there are 10? Finally, the angel said, "O Ibrahim, forsake this argument. The command of your Lord has come. A punishment is about to befall them, which no one can repel." Taking leave from Prophet Ibrahim a.s., these three angels, led by Hazrat Jibreel a.s., journeyed toward their final destination, Sodom. They reached the gates of Sodom just before sunset. At that time, Prophet Lut a.s. was busy with some work outside the city. When his eyes fell on these three exquisitely handsome young men, his heart pounded with an unknown fear. He knew about the perverted mentality of the men of this city. He became deeply worried about the honor and safety of these guests. He did not ask their identity. He only wanted to get them safely to his house before anyone in the city noticed. He signaled them to follow him and began walking quickly toward his home. But Satan was at work. As Prophet Lut a.s. was entering his home with his guests, a pair of eyes had seen the scene. Those two eyes belonged to none other than the wife of Prophet Lut. According to Islamic narrations, Lut's a.s. wife was named Waila, or Waliha. She was a woman from that same disbelieving nation. Although she was married to Prophet Lut a.s., she never truly believed in the one Allah from her heart. She was a hypocrite. She felt a strange attachment to her sinful people, which was stronger than her duty to the Prophet. She loved the luxury, wealth, and social status of Sodom more than faith, ideals, and belief. When she saw her husband bringing three heavenly-looking young men into the house, no thought of hospitality crossed her mind. Instead, a satanic joy gripped her. She thought she now had great news to please the people of her nation. Historical accounts say that Lut's wife had a secret pact with the people of her nation. If any guests ever came to Lut's house, she would signal them. If they came during the day, she would create smoke on the roof. And if they came at night, she would light a fire on the roof. That day was night. Waila quickly climbed onto the roof of the house and lit a fire. This fire was a signal of frenzied celebration for the deviant men of Sodom. Not only that, she couldn't be satisfied with just this news. She herself ran out of the house and rushed to the main square of the city where the sinners were gathered. Panting, she told them, "What are you doing here? Tonight, such guests have come to Lut's house, more handsome youths than I have ever seen in my life." As soon as they heard this news, it was as if Satan had possessed the people of that nation. The intoxication of sin flowed through their veins. They started running toward the house of Prophet Lut a.s. like a swarm of locusts. Within moments, hundreds of men surrounded the Prophet's house. They started shouting and pounding on the door. Prophet Lut a.s., hearing this chaos from inside and feeling ashamed and afraid in front of his honored guests, cringed. He opened the door, came outside and stood before the frenzied mob, pleading with his hands folded. He said, "O my people, fear Allah, do not disgrace me before my guests. Is there not a single good man among you?" In a final attempt to turn them from this vile sin, he said, "Look, here are my daughters," meaning the women of the city who were like daughters to the Prophet. "Marry them according to the law. They are purer for you." But those sinners laughed raucously. They said, "Out! You know very well that we have no interest in your daughters or any woman of this city. You know exactly what we want. Hand over our guests to us." When Prophet Lut a.s. saw that none of his pleas were working, he broke down in utter despair. He said, "Alas, If only I had the strength to stop you today, or if only I had a powerful refuge." Just as the prophet expressed his utter helplessness before his nation, his guests spoke from inside the house. They said, "O Lut, do not be afraid. We are not your guests. We are messengers sent by your Lord. These sinners will never be able to reach you." Saying this, the chief of the angels, Hazrat Jibrail, A.S., merely extended a part of his wing through the door. With that one strike, the entire frenzied mob standing outside was instantly blinded. They started screaming, falling over one another. They couldn't see anything. They desperately tried to find the door, but only hit their heads against the walls. They began to shout, "Lut has cast magic on us!" In the midst of this terrifying chaos, the angels prepared Prophet Lut, A.S., for the final command. They said, "O Lut, the time for this nation's destruction has drawn near. The appointed time for the torment is the morning, and is not the morning near. Now in this last part of the night, take your family and those who have believed in you and leave this city. You yourself must stay at the very back to ensure no one is left behind." Then they uttered that final and most difficult warning. "As you leave the city, when the torment begins, you will hear terrible screams, explosions and wailing. But no matter what happens, not one of you is to look back, except for your wife. She will look back, and upon her will befall what is about to befall this sinful nation." The fate of Lut's wife Wila was sealed. Her betrayal was complete. She had rejected the message of her husband, Prophet Lut, A.S., and chosen her sinful nation. Therefore, her final destiny was written to be with them, piercing the darkness of the deep night. Prophet Lut, A.S., his 2 daughters, and those few believers silently left the borders of Sodom. With every step, there was a suppressed terror. Behind them lay a sleeping city that would never wake again. With them was Lut's wife, Wila. Physically, she was walking with the prophet, but her soul, her mind, her every sympathy lay in the alleys of the sinful city behind her. They walked quickly, trying to reach a safe distance before the light of dawn. The angel's terrifying warning echoed in their ears. When the torment begins, no one under any circumstances is to look back. This command was not just a physical restriction. It was the ultimate test of faith. To look back meant to feel a secret attachment to that sinful nation, to that destroyed way of life. It meant having more attachment to worldly possessions than to the decree of Allah. When they had crossed the city limits and reached a high place, just then, the first light of dawn broke in the eastern sky. The appointed time for the torment had arrived. First came an ear-splitting cataclysmic sound, a terrible scream, the likes of which no one had ever heard. By the command of Allah, Hazrat Jibrail, A.S., inserted his massive wing beneath the soil of Sodom and its surrounding cities. In an instant, he uprooted those 3 great settlements, Sodom, Gomorrah, and Admah, from their very foundations. Then he raised those cities high up toward the sky, so high that it is said the angels of the first heaven could hear the barking of the city's dogs and the crowing of its roosters. After that, those cities were turned completely upside down and hurled violently back to the earth. And from the sky, a strange rain began to fall, not ordinary stones, but hard pebbles of baked clay. According to the description in the Holy Quran, the name of the sinner upon whom it would fall was inscribed on each stone. The sun was rising, but instead of sunlight, a rain of fire and brimstone poured down on Sodom. The lava from beneath the earth seemed to erupt upwards. A cataclysmic earthquake shook the entire valley. Prophet Lut, A.S., and his daughters obeyed the command of Allah perfectly. Despite hearing the sounds of this horrific destruction, they did not look back even once. They kept their eyes lowered, moving forward with complete faith in Allah, but Wila could not. When she heard the sky-shattering screams of her beloved city, when she heard the sounds of her nation, her family, her luxurious home being destroyed. The hypocrisy and hidden love inside her flared up like a fire. Her feet seemed to be stuck to the ground. Her husband and daughters were moving ahead, leaving her behind. But Weila's mind was stuck in her gilded past. She forgot the command of Allah. She ignored the warning of her prophet. In the final moment, she committed the ultimate betrayal. She stopped, and lamenting for her sinful people, she screamed, "Alas! Oh, my people!" And saying this, she turned her head backward. At that very moment, as her eyes fell upon her burning city, the divine torment found her too. One of those decreed stones rushing from the sky struck her hard on the head. In an instant, her body became lifeless. Her flesh and blood seemed to vaporize. In a moment, her body began to transform. The ground she stood on and the salty minerals of the torment consumed her. She turned into a solid pillar of salt. Her soul did not even get the chance to leave her body. She was turned into an instructive symbol to stand until the day of judgment. She remained standing exactly as she was, her face turned toward the destroyed city of Sodom. It was a living testament to her heart's final choice. Prophet Lut, A.S., did not see this terrifying sight. He continued forward as commanded. He lost his home, his wealth, and the companion of a long part of his life, but he saved his faith and his daughters. He went far from Sodom and took refuge in the small town of Zoar, which had been spared from this destruction by Allah's command. When that great cataclysm of destruction ended, the light of dawn revealed a completely changed world. Where was that fertile valley that was like the Garden of Paradise? Where was the prosperity of those 5 cities? In the place of Sodom, Gomorrah, and the other cities, there was nothing left but a vast, heated, and toxic crater. The fire and brimstone that rained from the sky, and the lava that erupted from the earth, had burned everything to ashes. That fertile valley had turned into a dead, salty desert. Over time, that deep crater began to fill with the water of the Jordan River. But this water was not life-giving. Mixed with the minerals, salt, and brimstone from beneath the earth, this water became so heavy and toxic that no fish, no aquatic plant, not even any microorganisms could survive in it. The world gave this new body of water a name, Al-Bahar al-Mayyit, or the Dead Sea. It is the lowest point on earth. Its water is so salty that no person can sink in it. They just float. It is like a living museum of Allah's torment, bearing witness to that terrifying destruction for thousands of years. Even today, the area around this Dead Sea, located on the border of Israel and Jordan, is completely uninhabited. No crops grow in this soil. No plants take root. Scientists find large amounts of bitumen, or natural asphalt, and sulfur under this ground, which proves a horrific ancient conflagration. And that woman, that treacherous wife Weilah, even today, if you go to the southwestern shore of the Dead Sea, in the mountainous region of Jordan called Mount Sodom, you will see a strangely shaped pillar of salt. The nomadic Bedouins and local people have known this pillar for thousands of years. They call it Lot's wife. This pillar still stands just as it was thousands of years ago. Its face is turned toward the Dead Sea, where her beloved city of Sodom once was. It may have changed slightly due to wind, rain, and the erosion of time, but its core form remains, the form of a woman who looked back at the last moment. It is not just a stone, it is a living warning. But the question is, why did Weilah look back? What was it that attracted her more than the command of Allah? The answer is dunya, the world. Weilah's heart was filled with a deep love for this world, for its wealth, its home, and its sinful people. Even though she was the wife of a prophet, she could not taste the sweetness of faith. Iman. Her body had come out of the city with Lut, Cs, but her soul was still bound to Sodom. When her beloved world was being destroyed, she forgot the promise of Allah and was lamenting for those lost possessions. Her looking back was a silent protest against the decision of Allah. This is why Allah Ta'ala has mentioned her story in such a terrifying way in the Holy Quran. Allah has given us two examples. On one hand, there are the wives of Prophet Nuh A.S. and Prophet Lut A.S. They were both wives of prophets in the company of the best of men, yet they chose disbelief. When the torment of Allah came, their identity as a prophet's wife was of no use to them. And on the other hand, there is the wife of Pharaoh, Hadrat Asiya. She lived in the palace of the world's greatest disbeliever, one who claimed to be God himself. But even in that filth, she believed in the one Allah. Despite enduring unimaginable torture from Pharaoh, she said, "My Lord, build for me a home near you in paradise." Through this, Allah has given us a final lesson. Faith, Iman, and salvation, Najat, are entirely personal. Whose wife you are, whose child you are, or what family you come from, none of it matters to Allah. What matters is only your heart, your faith, and your deeds. In this instructive story of Lut's wife, there is a great message for all of us. Today we can each ask ourselves, do we truly have complete faith in Allah? Or are we like Wailah, claiming faith with our tongues while our hearts are lost behind the wealth, glamour, and fleeting pleasures of this world? Wailah knew that this torment was the truth from Allah. She knew that her husband was a prophet of Allah. Even after knowing everything, she could not remove the love of the world from her heart, and her end was that she turned into a pillar of stone. We too should fear that we may be Muslims externally, but our hearts may have drifted far from Allah. We must also be able to leave behind the Sodom of our lives, our sins and worldly attachments, and move toward faith. Because when the final judgment of Allah arrives, there will be no second chance to look back. For thousands of years, this story of Prophet Lut, A.S., and the city of Sodom was a matter of faith in Scripture. People saw the Dead Sea. They heard tales of the Pillar of Salt. But the modern age has raised a question. Did these cities truly have any real existence, or was this merely a symbolic story? In the 20th century, scientists, archaeologists, and geologists set out to solve this ancient mystery. They began their search in the very place the scriptures had indicated, the Valley of the Dead Sea. What they found was astonishing. It paints a picture that places the descriptions of the Quran and other holy books in a new light. First, let's look at the description of the torment. So we turned the cities upside down and rained upon them stones of baked clay. Surah Al-Hijr. Geologists have examined the Dead Sea region and seen that it is located on a strange and active geological point on Earth. It sits on a massive fault line called the Dead Sea Fault. This region has a history of terrifying earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Even in ancient times, scientists have found vast reserves of bitumen, natural asphalt, and sulfur under this ground. A powerful earthquake could easily throw these flammable materials from beneath the ground upward. When bitumen and sulfur come into contact with oxygen in the air, they create a cataclysmic firestorm. This provides a natural explanation for literally raining fire and brimstone from the sky. The cities sinking into the ground and simultaneously burning to ashes is geologically very possible in this region. But the main question was, where exactly were the cities? For a long time, archaeologists believed that Sodom and Gomorrah had sunk beneath the waters at the southern end of the Dead Sea. But modern researchers are pointing to a new possibility, one that is even more startling. The centerpiece of this theory is a massive archaeological site in Jordan called el-Hammam. It's located northeast of the Dead Sea in the Jordan Valley. This was a vast, heavily fortified, and incredibly wealthy Bronze Age city. It was the largest city in the region, a mega city. Excavations have revealed evidence of this city's horrific destruction. It was not destroyed by a normal earthquake or fire. The evidence points to a cosmic catastrophe. Scientists found things in the ruins of this city that can only be formed at unimaginably high temperatures. They found pieces of pottery that had melted into glass or trinitite. For this to happen, the temperature must exceed 2500 degrees C, something not possible in any ordinary ancient fire. They found shocked quartz, a special type of mineral that is formed on Earth only by a nuclear bomb explosion or the impact of an asteroid from space. They found human skeletons that were blown to pieces, bones fractured in such a way as if they had been thrown for miles by a tremendous explosive force. Putting all this evidence together, scientists have reached a terrifying conclusion. About 3,600 years ago, which matches the time of Prophet Lut AS. An asteroid or comet entered Earth's atmosphere and just above the city of el-Hammam before it even touched the ground. It burst in a cataclysmic explosion. This explosion was 1,000 times more powerful than the nuclear bomb dropped on Hiroshima. In an instant, the city's temperature became like the surface of the sun. Every building, every person, every animal in the city was vaporized. Then came a cataclysmic shockwave, just like the Saiha or terrible scream described, which shook the entire valley and literally leveled the city to the ground. The most terrifying thing happened next. This explosion vaporized the salty water of the Dead Sea and mixed the vapor with the dust of the explosion, spreading it across the entire valley. As a result, a toxic, salty rain fell from the sky, literally like a rain of stones or rain of salt. This cosmic salt so poisoned the soil of the entire valley that for the next 600 to 700 years, not a single blade of grass grew in that once fertile garden of paradise. This scientific theory aligns almost perfectly with the descriptions in the Holy Scriptures. A sudden catastrophe, fire from the sky, a terrible sound, the explosion, the city being overturned, the shockwave, and a rain of stones or salt, which made the land barren. Although we cannot say with 100% certainty that el-Hammam was that cursed city of Sodom, it undoubtedly proves that in this region, at that exact time, such a terrible divine torment did descend, wiping an entire civilization off the map. Science and archaeology do not conflict with faith here. Rather, modern discoveries are presenting that thousands of years old warning before us even more forcefully. It proves that the story of the people of Lut is not a fairy tale. It is a real and bloody chapter of history. These ruins remind us of that ultimate truth. When Allah Ta'ala gives respite to a sinful nation, it doesn't mean He has forgotten them. He gives them time to return. But when they continue in their transgression, when they mock the warnings of the Prophet and begin to take pride in their sins, then the grasp of Allah comes just like this, sudden, terrifying, and eternal. The scorched earth of Sodom and the salty water of the Dead Sea remain silent witnesses to their terrible end.